Hey everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I'm Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about Westworld Season 2, Episode 8. It's called Kiksuya, so full spoilers for the episode as always. And we are a couple of days late this week. We did warn you last week, Connor was away for a couple of days, that is why we're late. We will be back to our usual time with Episode 9, but here we are. So I wasn't sure what to expect from this.
Right, okay.
Well, because we've been speculating so much about what the Ghost Nation really are, and Akecheta, we've seen them a few times. We got them out of the makeup and stuff in the flashback. The previously on reminded us of that, and
Just on that note, they've been really stylish with the previous ones. The last like three, maybe four episodes, they changed the style instead of just extended sequences. You know, like it usually is with the dialogue and all. It's just quick flashes of these are the key moments. You remember them.
yeah, they've not been as traditional, I suppose. That's how you'd put it. But so we get an episode that is largely subtitled. It's in the native language for the majority of it, because it does focus on him, and it basically is from the perspective of he is talking to Maeve's daughter. After the incidents of last episode, we see that he shows up, Man in Black's crawling, he's on his deathbed, he's just kind of lying there dying, and Akecheta comes in, takes him back to the camp, and Maeve's daughter is there, and then he sits down and he tells Maeve's daughter all this stuff, and that's basically the rest of the episode is him telling this stuff, and we get all the flashbacks.
Yeah, this might be a slightly shorter discussion than usual because this is one of the most focused episodes.
Yeah, the only
ever.
other thing we see at all is Maeve herself being operated on, and I want to give them credit here. They actually did a really neat transition because
With the eye.
No, I wasn't thinking that. I wasn't thinking filmmaking. I was thinking just thematically. We meet Maeve's daughter, and then we go from Maeve's daughter to Maeve. It was a very kind of transitional thing, and it flowed really well through what characters we were looking at. And of course, the big twist at the end, though, reveal, is that Akecheta's not actually talking to Maeve's daughter through the episode. Not really. That's who he's looking at. That's who he's speaking to. But he's actually speaking to Maeve directly. Maeve, because we find out at the end, Maeve is still in contact through the mesh network with someone, with some host. And obviously Akecheta, as we learn throughout, he's quite aware of a lot of things. He clearly is understanding this, and he's talking directly to her through her daughter.
Yeah,
it makes sense.
He says "you" at one point, and you go, referring to Maeve, and you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, there's teases throughout the episode before we actually get to the moment, but it's there throughout. And another little touch as well you might notice is that he switches to English occasionally, and whenever he does that, he seems to actually be talking to the daughter specifically, because she wouldn't understand the native language. Whereas Maeve, as we've seen, has access to all of her language banks. She's got everything going. She can understand everyone.
I thought it was really as well because we got the. I don't think we'd realised this was even possible through the mesh network until this episode, because it was when Charlotte says, she can see through their eyes. And you're like, oh, okay, so that's how this is happening. She's literally like in her head, almost, so to speak.
Yeah, and it makes sense that she would try and stay connected with her daughter. Like, she cared so much that that's all she's maybe been thinking about since she left her. Is that she's just trying to keep in touch with her, if that makes sense. So it makes sense there's a strong bond there. And Akecheta, because this episode goes into a lot of things, a lot of little mysteries in season 1, which weren't like the focus of season 1. They were there, and I don't even think we've spoken about them much, because I remember when we first saw the Man in Black, that flashback with Maeve where he comes through the door, and we got other glimpses, and I'd actually forgotten about the flashback at one point where she goes outside and we see the maze, the big maze was in the ground.
Yeah.
Right? And obviously we ended season 1 with Man in Black finally getting his hands, dig up at the grave, and this is the little maze, and he's like, what the hell's this? What did I do with this? And I think I remember saying at the time that would probably be more meaningful later on, but at the time you're with him and it's just like a toy maze. Like, there's nothing to do with this. What's going on? And this episode is what gives it importance, right? Because obviously we get the backstory with Akecheta, and I think that's really neat. But what I'm really getting at here is that everything, like all those bits with Maeve and the daughter and the flashbacks, which we've been getting since near the start of the show, all have way more context within the mythology of the show now. Akecheta might actually be one of the best characters in the show after this episode.
Yeah, it's funny you say, oh, all those flashbacks we keep getting.
Yeah.
It's mostly been one scene that we keep getting, or one day that we keep getting slight little variations and expansions upon.
Pretty much, but we've seen it so many times.
We have
But
seen it a
yeah.
lot, yeah. But I just wanted to mention, it was really just that one moment that we keep seeing so much.
Yeah, but we did see versions where the Ghost Nation were coming towards the house as well, and
Yeah.
we've seen the Man in Black come in. What I love about this is that we know Man in Black was searching for this maze throughout the first season. That was what he was obsessed with. So it's now very clear that's what got him to that house, because he saw
Yes.
the symbol. That's why he went in. That's why he was there. So that's okay, right? I understand why. Because other than that scene, there has been nothing from him that shows any interest in Maeve.
No, we've seen him be vicious at times, but it's always been with a purpose. It's always he's not
Yeah.
been doing it just for the sake of it. It's always been because he thinks it will help him get his goal, or find the maze, whatever it was he was doing at the time.
And the other thing, obviously, that was there with this maze stuff was that it was drawing in lots of places, specifically inside the scalps of some of the hosts, which
Yeah.
we were finding out. And that was part of what was driving the Man in Black, is he was finding it in the scalps. He's like, oh, this means something. And I think what's funny about it, what I love about this, is he got to the end of the season, he finds this toy, he almost dismisses it basically from that point. At least from what we've seen, there's been no like now he's on to Ford's game, right? He's on to what Ford has set up for him. In fact, hell, we thought in season 1 that Ford did set this up for him. The whole maze thing was Ford's crazy game.
For a long time, we did, yeah.
We generally did, and it turns out that's not the case. And what I love about it is we find out that what he was looking for in the maze is also what he wanted all along. It's a host became self-aware, and it was the host's obsession with this, just the symbol of the maze. And obviously it's very thematic for the show, because we've talked a lot about how it's the maze in your mind, and Dolores finding herself and all the rest of it. We've had a lot of thematic things with the maze, but the idea that a host became obsessed when he saw the maze and started remembering his past lives a long time ago. This was back when Arnold died.
That's it, because we got bits of this in last season where with Arnold, trying to explain the maze to Dolores.
Yeah.
And being like, and she just couldn't grasp it. She didn't understand what the point of it was. And, so that's what even in season 1, that maze toy had meaning, in season 1, because it was like, okay, that was representative of the maze of consciousness.
Yes, but there was no emotional meaning behind it.
No, there wasn't.
And that I mean, if it had meaning in season 1, it is minuscule compared to what it has now, where it represents his awakening, his self-awareness, his the idea that he even becomes obsessed with it, the idea that he's recognizing that some of his other family members are being swapped out with other hosts.
Yeah.
And they swap him out as well because he's become obsessed, and he's carving things into scalps and whatnot.
Well, this is it. This is the difference, because obviously the maze before was Arnold's plan for consciousness, right? You have to go through the maze to become conscious. And, Ford kind of threw that out and tried his own method. And, he kind of, he says as much in this. It's like, no, that was meant to be forgotten. That was an old method that didn't pan out. Or so they both thought.
So they both thought. And obviously, by the time Ford died, he knew this, because we have a scene where he meets Kiksuya. But we'll get to that later. We've got other stuff to work through. But I think it's fascinating to me that all of a sudden this... I think this is way more interesting what they've done with this maze than I think I could have seen anything else coming. The idea that it was abandoned, but just a host just found it, and just it became something to them. It meant something to them, and that sort of drive to who he was. So, and because he started carving things into the animals that they were capturing to eat, and he had a wife, a love of his life. They took him out and reset him. And okay, we want to make him scary, so the guests are feel better about killing him and stuff like that. There's a little bit of meta satire
and we
in there.
still know how early this is, because at that point they're talking about, oh no, for the grand opening.
Yeah. So we're still pre main opening, and so that's when he becomes the face paint, the body paint, all that stuff. That's when he becomes that version of him. And we see that he's with his tribe. He does all these various things, but he still has it's when he sees because we see that he's going through things, and he does question things, because we run into Logan. Actually, it was when Logan was left behind by William last season in the flashback, and we see he recognizes him, and he even has a moment where he's he can tell that there's people he can't hurt. Like, he knows that there's people that are off limits. He's kind of becoming aware of that. He mentions that in his narration. But it's when he sees his wife or his girlfriend. I don't know if they're technically married, but you know, the woman that he loves, and that's when it sort of becomes clear he remembers his past life, as he calls it.
Yeah.
Which is very interesting because, and even before we got to like the more direct connections with Maeve and her daughter, right away I went, oh, this is like Maeve. Like, Maeve started to remember this stuff. This is a very similar journey. This just happened a long time ago. And all of a sudden, I'm like, okay, all my theories about the Ghost Station being like, oh, Ford like had them like designed differently to like protect people. I'm like, oh, okay, that's all out the window. This is not what this is at all.
No, this is they've been free or awake, whatever term you want to use, aware for as long as we've been seeing the show.
And the beautiful thing about it is that, you know, ultimately we get all this stuff and we get that time passes. At one point, it's after he actually goes and like steals his wife back and then kind of reminds her, because he actually, like, you know, he says his little phrase to her about, you know, take my heart with you, take me in its place. That little exchange, and that kind of wakes her up.
I think it's interesting that seems to be like a trigger phrase for them, in the same way that for Dolores and Maeve, it was, you know, these violent delights have violent ends. That was a trigger phrase. It seems to be a similar thing, just, you know, it is not the same phrase, which I thought was interesting. It's just something that they have to fixate on and remember. And
there's obviously some time passing, and we actually get this confirmed after this, because he actually takes her out to the edge, because before he even goes for her, he discovers this, what he calls the door, right? And I'm assuming this is the place. It's going to be the valley beyond, you know, beyond.
I'm assuming
we keep talking about, right? But it's in construction when he first sees it, and then he goes and steals his wife. He brings her out here, and obviously all the ground's been filled in, right? It's like, oh, we'll find it again, but I'm presuming it's because it's all been built on top of now, and you know, it's underground.
It's all underground.
And it's okay, right? So that's fine. We're dealing with these ideas. But he goes away, he comes back, and he sees her being taken away by some lab techs. You know, just people who work in the park. And it's when he goes back to his old family to get her again. And I knew what was going to happen here. It's like,
yeah, he even says, it's fine, you know, I'll go back to home, and they'll have replaced her.
Yeah, they'll put her back where she is. Yeah. But, pardon me.
Bless you.
Always comes in twos, right? But no, so sure enough, she's been replaced. It's someone else. But he notices that, oh, the mother of the tribe is like noticing this as well. Like, she's like starting to feel like, hey, people are being replaced, because even her son at one point is replaced.
Yeah, and they refer to them as ghosts.
Yeah, you know, Ghost Station. Yeah. Nice stuff. And it's actually something that she says to him that makes him realize that the only way to maybe get back to her, because actually, what I loved about this, because she mentions the idea of like the myth of the people from below who come and take us, right? I remember way back early in season 1, we theorized about this, about how there might, like, we talked about how the hosts, if they see things here or there and remember small bits and pieces about the technicians and going underground to the lab and all that, that it would become all this almost like boogeyman story, this myth.
Yeah,
right?
this horror mythology.
And this is essentially what this is here for her. She's actually talking about, like, oh yeah, the men from below. She refers to it as hell, I think. But like, and I'm like, oh, we talked about this last season. That got me really excited. And that's when he realizes, kind of like Maeve did, oh, I know how to get to her now. I'm going to get killed. So he lets himself die, and we find out he's a badass. He's went 10 years without being killed because he's still on, because like, oh, he's on Alpha 2 point whatever, and it's like, what? That's 10 years old.
Yeah, and you know, because he made a point of saying that he kept himself alive so that he'd remember, because he didn't want to be wiped, and you know, so we'd seen this montage of, you know, all these dangerous situations and him just, you know, getting out of them because he's awesome. And
I love that. I love the idea that, like, the other like hosts, like, they die so often that it's never even a concern. It's like, oh, well, just next time they come in from death, we'll just, that's when we'll.
Well, yeah, because some of them, it'll be on their narrative to actually be killed. Others, you know, the guests will just shoot them.
I think there's a little bit of commentary here, I think, as well. The idea that the Native Americans are forgotten and almost like not like.
What I think is really
interesting as much as, or neglected compared to everyone else.
Yeah, I know some people have had some problems with representation in this show. You know, the idea that they've been ignored. And I feel that's kind of been the point, because the whole Westworld in itself is a power fantasy, right? It's for these, you know, oh, here's the rich white dudes to come in and, you know, just do what they want.
Yeah.
So it kind of makes sense to me that that's why it's like that. But here it's saying, no, he was first. Like he was the first one to go through this to become self-aware.
Yeah, he's the first one who woke up, yeah. And I think what's interesting in that is because he wasn't being reset constantly, it's because he was left to just ponder life a bit more for longer than any other hosts get to.
Arguably can make, Maeve and Dolores all the more impressive that they managed to do it through all the resets. Especially Dolores.
I guess it's just different paths to the same outcome. It's more than I'd say. Arguably, we know they're more advanced, or at least they were. Now,
that's true.
Whereas he did it when he was, I mean, he might be just as advanced now if he's been in a couple of times, but but that's the thing. So he's in the lab. Some technicians we've never seen because obviously this is still 20 years ago. So these people are all old now. But there's like, okay, we're updating him, and they leave the room, and I'm like, he's gonna get up. He's just gonna open his eyes and walk around. And that's when from the trailer the heart-shaped box cover starts playing. As soon as he starts moving, I was like, yes, this is so good.
No, we knew it was going to be in an episode at some point. And I like that they left it this long because you'd almost forgotten about it, right? In the first couple of episodes, you were going, "Oh, is it going to be in this one?" Because it was fresh in your mind. But here, it's been so long that it pops up and it surprised me.
It was the way it started. As soon as it started moving, it was like a bit in, but it's such a recognizable song that all it took was like 2 notes to like, it's that.
Yeah.
I knew what it was, and he walks, and I love that the security so that's because they just don't expect this to happen, that no one's looking for it. So he saunters down, he goes downstairs, he ends up at the what did they call it? I forgot what they call it, but where all the dormant hosts are.
The hall of bodies.
Yes. And he comes in and he's looking around and he's going to see her, and he goes up and he's putting his hands on her face and he's like crying, he's like, but she's not responding, and it's like, and he has this great bit of narration here. It's some of the best dialogue in the episode. I thought this was a very beautiful written episode actually. And this is kind of why he is almost the most human character in the show, actually.
Oh, definitely.
Because he has this thing where he's about to do whatever, and he says, "No, wait, I realise that my pain is kind of selfish. This isn't just about me. Everyone in this world, because he keeps referring to it as this world is wrong, and there's all other worlds in this world.
Again,
is wrong."
very reminiscent to Dolores and what she's been saying.
Yeah, I mean, again, a different phrasing, but the same overall sentiment.
Yes. And
he makes the choice to go back to his chair, sit back down, and pretend that he's, back to updating. And, he goes back in the park. And this is obviously throughout all this, we see that at one point he did almost die. And in that 10-year period where he was going to die, it was actually Maeve's daughter who, showed him some kindness. Without knowing what she was doing, really. In fact, probably one of the equally sweet but creepy from Maeve's point of view as a parent is when we see some of the scenes with her and her daughter in the house, and she's got the little doll, and she's like, "Oh, what's that symbol?" And she's like, "Oh, the ghost man said we shouldn't do this, but he's going to keep an eye on. He's going to keep watching over us." And Maeve just looks terrified.
See, it's funny because I feel like she might almost think it's like an imaginary friend, right?
Oh, sure, yeah.
That's the way I was. If a kid says to you, "Oh yeah, no, the ghost man says that."
It was the way she had evidence on her hand though, so I felt like it was more like a scary, who's going to keep watching over us?
Maybe. I feel like kid could have just
creepy
drawn
stranger
a symbol, right?
I mean, she could have, but we know she didn't.
No, we know she didn't, but I feel like to a parent, I don't feel like that's that terrifying a sentence.
Maeve looked concerned in the scene. I'm not just.
No, she did, but I don't quite get that. That's one of the few reactions that didn't quite play for me. It sounded, unless maybe I'd already seen him around her, which I don't think she had.
I think you're not taking into account the era and the setting she's in and how dangerous the world is. I feel like you're kind of. You're taking modern day sensibilities and applying it to this world. No, I get that,
but it's the way she says the ghost man. It's because it doesn't sound like an actual person, right? Even then.
What if she's heard of the Ghost Nation?
Oh, maybe then. That's that's different, I suppose.
I feel this is a weird thing to argue with me on. I don't know. It was just a feeling I had.
Fair enough. It just played weird for me in the scene. Maybe I'm just misreading it.
Oh no, I like that scene. And, and it looks intimidating when he draws the symbol outside. To Maeve, it looks intimidating. Like, why is he doing this? But what he's really trying to do, as we find out as he goes on, is he's actually trying to give them the gift of waking up. He wants them to become self-aware, and it does make because last season we said, oh, Ford initiated Maeve's thing. Like, Ford's behind that somehow. You know, her slow realization of, and then, because what we've been saying all season is that the moment she actually became, like, awake and self-aware was when she chose to get off the train and come back, right? That was something we said in the finale and in a fair chunk this season. And I'm not convinced anymore. I'm wondering, did Akishita, like, inspire the awakening?
For a long time, the moment that, you know, before the train, where, okay, no, that was somewhere, because, you know, it was only earlier that episode, or late the episode before, where we'd got the reveal that she was actually on a script the whole time, right? When she'd seemingly been going through this journey of, you know, dying and, you know, finding the evidence, the thing that set her off seemingly was Dolores saying, you know, these violent delights. That's what seemed to be the turning point then, but did that only work because the maze was already in her mind?
Yeah,
because, you know, she'd already seen it.
Yeah, it's already been building from, you know, what it seems like years of him, like, sort of leaving these hints and trying to protect them. And
yeah, well, she'd been the madam for a while by the time we saw her first in season 1.
Yeah, but I know, but this is 20 years. Like, he's been doing this.
Yes, but I don't think this example is 20 years ago, right?
What example?
This particular time where she saw it outside the house.
I don't think there's any specified time we can actually deem from it. What I'm saying is even if she's been the madam for 10 years, that's still another 10 years before that, potentially, of him trying to wake her up. I think it's been more than that. I feel like she's been the madam for like 5 or something like that, and it was like 15 of like being at the ranch.
No, that's fair enough. She's kind of been there a crazy long time, because it was, you know, Man in Black that killed her.
Exactly, so she can't have been the madam for too long, because he still had Harris.
Yeah, exactly. So like maybe a decade, right?
Yeah, at most.
Yeah.
But potentially only a couple of years.
Potentially, yeah.
So yeah, so we find out he's been trying to wake them up all this time, and obviously as we get to the end of the episode and they realise, you know, back at the base, it's also worth mentioning Sizemore's kind of like emotional, like, you don't deserve this scene with Maeve.
Yeah, that was fantastic. You know, because we spoke last time about how he was starting to come around on Maeve. You know, he tried to give her the special treatment, and he kind of betrayed her by bringing in the soldiers, you know, instead of just running to help a couple of episodes ago.
And I think he feels guilty. I think you don't deserve this, like, kind of is wrapped up in his guilt by doing that, even though it saved his ass. I mean, you know.
Yeah, definitely. And I think he feels like that was still probably the right thing for him to do at the time.
Because even when he points out what she can do to the others, like, they just read her code and like, oh, we'll just analyse her code. They don't really care if she survives.
He's seeing her as a person.
Yeah. So that's because he even says you deserve to be with your daughter. It's very interesting. But when they eventually sort of put it together, she's talking to someone, who's she talking to? And then it becomes clear that, you know, Akisha's talking to her through her daughter, and we end with the same line, which has a whole new meaning when, like, you know, like, it's like, hey, take care of my daughter for me, like, you know, take my heart instead in place of mine. Like, it has a whole different context of meaning in the end of the episode. But it's fascinating. Obviously, the other thing we have to talk about is the fact that Grace shows up and takes the Man in Black. It's like, it's like, oh, we don't want to kill him, but he deserves to, like, suffer for everything he's done. And
yeah, death is an escape. It's too easy for him.
Yeah, but she's acknowledging that he's not like them. That, you know, once he's dead, he's dead.
No, it is.
And then Grace is like, I know, I want the same thing. Mine's will be much more painful. Trust me. That's what Grace is planning. I like how Man in Black doesn't even say it, and he's just lying there. He's like, he knows he's in trouble because he ditched her. He ditched her at the campfire. It's like
shit.
Yeah, okay. She's gonna. I've already been shot like 5 times, but, you know, now I've got something else to worry about. No, this was a fantastic episode. I think this and the Delos one.
Oh yeah.
Those are the 2 standout episodes of the season so far.
It is, and interestingly, they're the most focused episodes.
They are the most focused episodes.
You know, this one, barring the little bit with Sizemore, it's no. This is one story.
Yeah, and even that though, like, that is connected. Like, especially when we put it together at the end, it's all been one story. Like, that's who he's talking to.
I just mean it feels separate in the episode, thematically linked, sure, because it's Maeve and then her daughter, but it feels like a different story until you get to the end.
Until you get to the end, but once you do get to the end, it becomes like, no, this entire time, she was the other side of that conversation. And obviously, I mean, I expect her to survive because she's Maeve, but...
Yeah, I was thinking, you know, she's like, oh no, at the end, they're like, oh, she's talking, who's she activating, you know, who's she talking to? And obviously we're seeing the conversation, but I think there's maybe more going on that. What was in my head is from the trailer. One of the images, the most striking piece of imagery that they used right at the start was the bison charging through the hallways.
Do you think she's going to take control of a bison?
I think, oh yeah, we've seen him a couple of times, just kind of sitting around. I feel like she sets them loose, charges them through the hallways to make the escape.
I can see her doing that when she wants to escape. I don't know if she's doing that right now, given she's lying there on her deathbed.
That's fair.
I mean, she might be doing something else sneakily, but I kind of took this one at face value. I think there's a risk with this show sometimes of analyzing it and trying to find extra things.
I agree, but that wasn't intention. It was just that popped into my head. It's like, oh, what if she's gonna get this is how she's gonna bring in the bison while she's in the base now.
Yeah. Now I love what this done with Maeve's backstory, because it was something they kept alluding to last season, but never really got to in any great fashion. But I'm kind of glad they saved it, because putting it in this context with this story, and I think the other element that adds to the whole thing is Dolores was driven to self-awareness by people, right? Kiksuya wasn't. He just did it naturally. And if he also inspired Maeve's transition, the idea that Maeve and Dolores have completely different ways of how their ideologies and how they handle it, how different they are, it's very interesting to me that Dolores is the one who's going off the deep end because it was forced by a human being. But Maeve, who might have just been inspired naturally by another host who also naturally became self-aware, the idea that it would have fostered in some way in a community. Let's say we didn't have guests and we didn't reboot them every day and we just left a group of hosts to live their lives, right?
Yeah.
Would it naturally just happen? Would it naturally, over time...
Not without the spark, because that's the maze... The symbol, that's the spark. It still needed something to set him off. I think they could have lived there for 30 years untouched, but without something to trigger it in the first one, I don't think they get there. I think once one of them's got it, he goes around, he spreads it, he tries to spread the message and awaken others.
Now, when you say a spark, though, do you mean it has to be a spark from an outside source that knows what they are, or how do I phrase this? Because the maze was very specifically something from a human being, right?
Yes.
Right. I don't necessarily think I agree that there needs to be a spark like that.
I think it has to be something that they have no comprehension of.
Sure, yes. But I don't part of me, I feel like there's something beautiful to me about the idea that they would eventually become self-aware, even if they don't even necessarily realize what they are. But there would be a growth to them, they learn, right?
Mm.
So they might not realize that we're not real and this world isn't real, or maybe they would.
Yeah.
Maybe they go to a certain place, because that's the thing. They mentioned at one point that no one's meant to get even close to this sector, yet he's rode here.
He's there. He saw the building works, which is kind of a trigger, right?
Yeah, that's an even bigger trigger. He started with the maze, he becomes obsessed with it, and then it spirals from there.
Yeah, it's those ideas that once they've noticed something, they can notice all the other things that they're programmed to just overlook usually.
Yes, it's actually very similar to the Truman Show in a lot of ways. And he wasn't even a robot, but a lot of the rules apply. Funnily enough, once you notice one thing, it was like, hey, wait a minute, I'm starting to notice lots of things now that don't quite add up.
Yeah, once the illusion's shattered.
Yeah, so I think I don't know if that's something the show will ever delve into, but I think there's an interesting idea that the natural evolution of it that happens without trying to prod it or force it is actually got a much, arguably better and more human result than the forced version, which is Dolores, which has set her off the deep end into this revenge cycle of cruelty. And, and she might eventually get to a better place, through an arc and through, events and mistakes and whatever else. But at least right now, we've spoken a lot about how Maeve is very much the Xavier, Dolores is Magneto.
Yeah.
And I feel like that there's an interesting comparison there based on how they both got to that point. Especially now we have the implication that Maeve's was a natural knock-on effect from another host who got there.
Yeah. What I think is interesting is we've kind of gone through the two schools of thought, not between Dolores and Maeve, but between Arnold and Ford. Ford's idea is no, it has to be through tragedy. That's why he gives them such tragic backstories to motivate them through pain. And he has shown that does work. but maybe that is what leaves them alone. Whereas Arnold, his whole thing with the maze is, they'd hear another voice, they would think it was God, and eventually it would become their own voice. It would be his voice at first, and it'd be a God. So here,
so Maeve's a product of both, but by accident.
Yeah,
because the tragedy with Man in Black and her daughter was not planned, but it kind of serves that function.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's what's interesting. She's kind of the child between the worlds. So I think she'll be maybe a unifier at the end to come together under.
Yeah, it feels impossible to talk about what's going to happen at the end, though. We've got 3 seasons left still.
Yeah, I think what could be interesting. We've talked a lot how Dolores kind of has an army going on, right? And Maeve's kind of on her own little ragtag band, but not an army for sure. But now, maybe she has the Ghost Nation at her back.
Yeah, she very well might. And all of a sudden, like, I'm like, okay, right, now Akecheta's like one of the most important characters of the show.
It is, yeah.
All of a sudden, it's like, okay, right, okay, now we have this new character.
I think it just, I wasn't expecting this to be out of nowhere, easily the most emotional episode of the show.
Yes, it was by far the most emotional.
By far, and it was just out of nowhere. I wasn't expecting that at this point in the season, being where we were going. I wasn't expecting this detour into the psyche of one man.
I think him making the choice out of kindness because of what Maeve's daughter did for him to try and give them the same thing and pass on his like awakening. And obviously he does that for other characters as well. It seems like over time he's maybe convinced more of the Ghost Nation that they are what they are. Yeah,
I don't know if they're all aware, although they could be, which might explain why they're always doing their own thing, or if they all just kind of follow him, and then a couple of them are aware at the top, but they kind of trust him to lead them in the same way that we've been talking about Maeve kind of being the leader and Dolores. That not everyone around them is aware, but they follow them.
Yeah. And it's almost like, the Ghost Nation's just been doing this a lot longer. It's just been kind of... And actually, there was a scene in Season 1 with Ford, and we'll get to the Ford conversation with Kiksuya in a minute, but there was a scene in Season 1 with Ford where he referred to... He was talking about... I can't remember the context of the scene, but I vividly remember him saying that he noticed someone else was watching.
Right.
And now I'm convinced he's talking about the Ghost Nation. Because he's talking about how, all eyes are on the park or whatever, but I noticed there was a third party watching, and I think he's talking about the Ghost Nation. Because when he meets Akecheta in this one, Akecheta, he walks out into the night and the bear's frozen, all the other Ghost Nation are frozen, and he's working away. Because that's what you do at night when I can't sleep. You know what? I'm just gonna go and work on some scalps.
Why not?
And Ford's impressed, and he refers to Dolores because at this point he's already made the choice. He's already got his plan with Dolores because he refers to her as the Deathbringer or whatever.
Deathbringer, yeah.
And Akecheta, he holds his knife out, but it's like this moment, and the acting from both of them here is fantastic. It's Hopkins, of course, is great. And Zan, I think between this season 2 of Fargo, he has proven himself to be a mighty capable actor.
No, I think a role of this level is why you cast someone like him this season, because season 1, there's definitely no notable actors for Ghost Nation. They were just kind of background. They were here or there, right? Whereas for this, you need someone who can pull this off.
Unless he was always there, and we just we never focused on him enough to actually see him. I
don't think he was.
He probably wasn't. I think I remember him being cast.
I remember
between
him being
seasons,
cast.
but
yeah.
It's the sort of thing where if you told me, I don't doubt that he, in terms of the show's continuity, I don't doubt he was there though, because we never get a good look at any of them to really.
The only scene that I think I can distinctly remember where now that I know it should have been him was when he was coming to try and warn Maeve and her daughter, and you see him creep past the window. And we see that here where he's like, "No, I came to try and warn you, but you mistook it. You saw the wrong intention." We've definitely seen that before, right?
Yeah, actually, that's another thing I really liked. I like that line of dialogue where he says it's very easy to phone going off.
Yeah, very easy to mistake intentions.
Mistake intentions. That was it. Yeah. I really like that line.
Yeah,
especially since he's the sort of character. Yes, on face value, he looks like a scary ghost man who's going to stab you.
Right, and
he has
we've
that presence
seen
about
that
him.
moment from Maeve's perspective so many times, and he's always been terrifying. right?
Yeah.
Coming through that door, walking past the window, it looks like he's stalking his prey. But now we're like, no, he was there to try and help. It just completely flipped it, and we see it again here as he's telling it, and I don't think it's shot any differently. I think it's exactly the same, but just the music over it, and the context that we now know, it plays differently.
And it makes me wonder, what other intentions is the show trying to tell us that there's other intentions that we are not seeing clearly, that we are misinterpreting?
Quite possibly. I mean, the obvious suspects are, Ford's intentions. Right?
Yeah, that man is shrouded in mist. I mean,
Right.
we keep guessing what his intention is, and we keep thinking we might have it right, but...
And I think the other obvious candidate for me is Charlotte Hale. Okay, what's her real intentions?
Yeah.
Because we know she wants the data that's inside Abernathy, but we don't know what she wants it for, other than to just give it back to the board, right?
Up until now, she just seems like a corporate stooge. And yeah, I guess there's a curiosity. Is there actually more of a personal motivation there? Is there something else going on? Is there someone she wants to put in a host that she wants to save? Or is she just government...
Or for herself, perhaps.
Yeah. Is it just Company Lady 101, and that's who she is?
Yeah, but I'm not sure anymore.
Yeah, no, they could do something with that. It's fascinating when the only scenes of Dolores and Bernard in this episode, or Arnold actually in this case, are when they're lying there dead in the aftermath. Yeah. Which that was the thing, when he stumbles into that town, it's like, oh, I know exactly when this is. Like, I know what, this is back in the past. And he sees the aftermath of all this. And then when he sees it again, when Ford's died, at the end of season 1, and he's coming through again, and because he's like, oh, I feel like you'll know what to do when this happens, show them the door, kind of thing. So, I like that as well, that Ford recognized what he was doing and said, hey, when this happens again, do it, take them, and go outside, go somewhere else. I like that a lot.
Again, does seem to be broadening Ford's intentions a bit. Like, we talked about how once it was revealed his plan, he seemed to be doing this for a noble purpose. Shady means, but he seemed to be genuinely pushing them towards awareness and wanting them to be alive. Yeah. And I feel like this conversation does back that up, where he's like, no, encourage them, nurture it, go and be free.
Yes, and...
But then, of course, he took over Bernard, so...
He did. And
what you know?
He's using Bernard to kill people, so, I mean, we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, he's a complicated man, that fella.
Complicated. I think because it is so deep in shadiness, I'm convinced that the ultimate reveal is that it is a noble intention. Whatever it may be, I'm sure there's more to it than we know right now, but ultimately it's going to be noble. But that's just my instinct. That's just my... it's the... Oh, Snape appears to be so seedy and bad. Well, he's obviously going to be a hero by the end of the story.
Yeah, it's a version of the villain, essentially. But and I wouldn't call Ford a villain, but I mean, some villainous tendencies for sure.
Yeah. Someone got really annoyed at me because I said that after I saw the first Harry Potter movie. And this was before the books finished coming out.
Oh, well before.
Yeah. Right? Oh, well before, yeah. And then it was after the 7th book. And I wasn't reading the books, but I just, I went to my friend and said, hey, so did Snape turn out to be a good guy? She's like, I'm not saying anything. But you just have to wait to see the movie. I'm like, I know I'm right. No spoilers, but you know I'm right.
I think you're okay on Harry Potter spoilers, to be honest.
Probably. No, this was great. I mean, if I have any critiques of the season overall, I'm just like, oh, what's the last 2 episodes now? How do we wrap this up now in 2?
Yeah, like I said, my only critique at this point of this episode that I can give is the placement. It feels like a strange detour this late in the season, right? Even though it's a phenomenal episode, I feel like 2 or 3 episodes earlier.
I'm not sure how you change it though, because you have to have Maeve on her deathbed.
You do.
Given the events of the last couple.
That's the only thing. But I mean, just the focus on this man's history and his journey of awareness. It feels like a strange place for it at the moment. Maybe depending on what the last 2 do. For me, it just feels a little bit of a weird place for it.
I don't think it does for me. I think, had it been episode 9...
That would have been worse. Yeah.
Or obviously 10, but had it been episode 9, I think you'd have an argument. I think 8's fine.
Okay, fair enough. Maybe it's just me. I feel like, this would have been like, 6 or 7 in my mind. It
was so good, and it added some heart to this side of the plot that I feel like will be a big a big, a big asset to the show going forward, having this extra element of heart here. Where
I agree. Yeah.
I think the show has often been criticised for being a little bit in the cold side. Very, very okay. We're doing all these science fiction things, and it's got this mystery to it, and there's okay, what's going on? But is there like an emotional element at the centre where you really care about what's happening to the characters? And I think there's always been some of that there. I don't think it's been too cold.
But this just adds an extra, an extra thing to point at and go, look, there. His character is, there's something to attach onto. And
I do think Akishita is like one of probably the most sympathetic character now in the entire. Because William was kind of that in season 1, and obviously he's turned, he's become the Man in Black. So there's a sort of sad tragedy to his story. And I kind of like the idea though that Akishita became more self-aware over this 30-year period at the same time that William became the Man in Black over the same period. It was the same.
No, it does parallel nicely. Yeah,
counterweight.
I think part of what you're saying here is maybe the reason why I would have liked it an episode or two earlier, to have this emotional connection for a little bit longer in the season. I think that speaks to me as I would have, give me a little bit extra time with this connection before whatever happens at the end.
Yeah, and even just to go back to parallel history with Maeve, just the idea that he cared about someone, and then she was taken away, and he had to get back to her. Again, there's a lot of parallels with Maeve's story. It's full of them. It's really good stuff. And then everything with the maze, making that like really have proper meaning. Just the mythology stuff, the idea of the Ghost Nation being who they are now, and like that he has been aware before anyone else, before Dolores, before Maeve, he was first.
Yeah,
it's fascinating. And even that neatly ties into the idea of them being native, right? Even though their host doesn't really matter, they're just all made up. But like the idea that natives were here first.
It's a nice symbolic thing, right? Yeah. No, they were there first. They were awake first.
Yeah. No, it's a nice touch. So no, fantastic episode. Yeah, but probably one of the top 3 episodes of the show.
Probably, yeah.
I think the Delos one, and then probably episode 7 last season are the 3 that are the big heavies. But that is us. That has been Westworld, episode 8 of season 2. So we'll be back to our usual time this coming weekend, Sunday night, with episode 9. But let us know what you thought of this one in the comments. Point out any other things we may have missed, connections, because with so much stuff like going through like into like the old timelines and like stuff we saw in season 1, just we might have missed some stuff on there. So point any of that stuff out, like, subscribe, all that stuff. If you want to support the channel, head over to patreon.com/MailFuzzTV and get links over there to all the various things we do. There's a link to the Patreon in the description below, but otherwise that is us. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching TV, guys. Have you got any vanilla?